You know, that dream, right? The open road, the camper van, just freedom. It's such a powerful image. But what actually keeps that dream running? What's the beating heart, the thing that powers the adventure? Well,
Right.
it's your leisure battery and the whole electrical system around it. Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that. We're pulling out the really important stuff you need to know about campervan power. We'll look at the traditional lead-acid batteries compared to the newer lithium options and some of the really top-tier kit that makes off-grid life, well, easier.
Yeah, absolutely. The sources we're drawing on are super practical. They're all focused on how you build a really reliable power setup for serious off-grid travel. We'll unpack some premium components, things like Fogstar Drift batteries, pure sine wave inverters, and there's this really neat all-in-one unit, the Clayton LPS II 3000. Think of this deep dive as like a shortcut, helping you make genuinely informed choices for your own van, your own adventures, however ambitious they might be.
Okay, so let's get into it. Lead-acid. It's been the standard for ages, the tried and tested option for leisure vehicles. But what are the actual characteristics, especially if you're really pushing the boundaries going properly off-grid?
Right. Well, for demanding use, lead-acid systems have some pretty significant limitations. The first big one is what people call the 50% rule, usable capacity. Basically, to make the battery last a decent amount of time, you can really only use about half of its rated capacity. So take a 100 amp hour lead-acid battery.
You only get 50 amp hours out of it, really.
Realistically, yeah, about 50 A of usable energy.
Yeah.
If you repeatedly discharge it deeper than that, you just kill it much faster. So what that means in practice is you need a much, much bigger lead-acid battery bank to get the same actual power you'd get from lithium, which hits your space, your weight.
Your payload, yeah.
Massively, exactly. Then there's voltage drop. As a lead-acid discharges, the voltage, well, it sags.
And that affects your gear.
Definitely. Sensitive electronics like your laptop might start acting funny, or even just shut off. Your fridge might not cool as efficiently. And if that voltage stays below about 12 volts for too long, you risk doing permanent damage to the battery itself. Shortens its life considerably.
Okay, so usable capacity is halved, voltage drops. What else?
Size and weight. They are just fundamentally heavier and bulkier for the usable power you get. That directly impacts how much other stuff you can carry your payload and takes up valuable cupboard space. Always a premium in a van.
Right. And charging.
Slower, definitely slower and less efficient, particularly the last, say, 20% of the charge. That top bit takes ages, which is a real pain if you're relying on solar or just getting charged from the alternator while driving on shorter trips. You might not get back to fully charged easily.
In lifespan, how long do they typically last?
You're probably looking at maybe 500 to 1,000 charge cycles if you look after it reasonably well, which sounds like a lot, but it's way fewer than lithium.
Right. So, okay, lead acid has these clear limitations. This is where lithium comes in, specifically lithium iron phosphate or LiFePO. It feels like this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
The initial cost might be higher, sure, but the long-term value proposition seems significant.
Oh, it's a huge leap forward, especially for serious adventures. The advantages directly translate into a much better off-grid experience. First off, usable capacity. It's massively higher. You can safely discharge these lithium batteries down to like 90, even 100% of their rated capacity.
So that 230A example battery we mentioned earlier.
You get pretty much all 230A of usable power out of it. So far more energy density, more power in a lighter, smaller box. Game changer.
Yeah, the voltage. Does it stay more stable?
Incredibly stable. It holds a consistent voltage almost right down to empty. What that means for you is your sensitive gear, laptops, cameras, whatever runs smoothly from start to finish. No weird voltage drops causing issues. Your fridge stays consistently cold. It's just reliable.
You mentioned something about built-in protection.
Yes, the BMS. The battery management system, this is crucial. It's like an onboard computer for the battery. It constantly monitors things and protects against overcharging, over-discharging, current surges, high or low temperatures. Basically, it keeps the battery safe and helps it last a really long time. Adds a huge layer of safety and longevity.
And you said lighter and smaller.
Yeah, significantly. Roughly half the weight of an equivalent lead-acid battery for the same usable power. And a smaller physical footprint, too. That's gold in a campervan build. Frees up payload, frees up space for other things.
Okay, and charging. Faster.
Much faster. They can accept charge current at a much higher rate than lead acid. Doesn't matter if it's solar, mains hookup, or the alternator, they just drink it in quicker.
And the lifespan difference. You said lead acid was maybe 1,000 cycles?
Lithium, you're looking at potentially 5,000 cycles or even more. Some manufacturers claim even higher, so it's a much longer-term investment. Especially if you travel frequently or live in your van full-time, it just makes economic sense over the years.
Okay, this paints a really clear picture. Lead acid limitations versus lithium advantages. So when we look at actual components, how does this translate? Let's talk about some of those top-tier options mentioned in our sources.
Right, let's connect the theory to the hardware. So these premium bits work together to make a really robust system. Take that 230A Fogstar Drift battery, for example. It uses high-quality LiFePO cells, plus that advanced BMS we talked about. That means you get access to nearly all of that 230A capacity reliably.
And it has some neat features too, right?
Yeah, really practical stuff like app-based monitoring via Bluetooth. You can just pull out your phone and see the state of charge, voltage, temperature, current draw. Really handy. Plus, it's got integrated heating, little heating elements inside.
Why is that important?
Because lithium batteries don't like being charged below freezing, around 0 degrees Celsius. The BMS will normally prevent it to avoid damage. The heating element warms the cells up just enough so you can charge safely even in really cold weather. Essential if you're doing any winter camping or traveling in colder climates.
Makes sense. Okay, what about getting mains power, like for laptops or kitchen gadgets? The inverter.
Yeah, the inverter. A 2,000-watt pure sine wave inverter is a really popular choice. The pure sine wave bit is key. It means it produces clean 230-volt AC power, just like you get at home. Safe for all your sensitive electronics, laptops, camera chargers, TVs.
And 2,000 watts is enough for most things.
It's a good sweet spot. It'll handle most everyday off-grid essentials, maybe a coffee machine, a blender, charging multiple devices, gives you a lot of versatility.
And solar. Obviously key for off-grid.
Absolutely. Solar panels combined with a good MPPT controller. That's your ticket to silent renewable energy when you're parked up. The MPPT controller maximum power point tracking is important because it optimizes the power coming from the panels. It adjusts constantly to get the most watts possible, even if the light changes, like if clouds pass over or there's a bit of shade. Much more efficient than older PWM controllers.
Okay, so you can build a great system with these separate components. But you mentioned an all-in-one option, this Clayton LPS II 3000 thing. It sounds intriguing. How does that simplify things?
Yeah, it's a fascinating approach. The Clayton LPS II 3000, you can think of it as like a complete high-performance electrical hub all in one box. It basically integrates everything. It replaces the need for a separate leisure battery, a separate inverter, the BMS, your BC to DC charger for alternator charging, and the solar charge controller.
Wow, so it packs all of that into one unit.
Exactly. One compact, tidy unit. It massively simplifies the wiring and the whole installation process. Less complexity, fewer connections, less to go wrong, potentially.
What's actually inside it then, specs-wise?
Okay, so the LPS II 3000 comes with a built-in 2.16 kilowatt-hour lithium battery. That's about 160 amp hours at 12 volts. It gives you a strong AC output, 3,000 watts continuous, with a peak of 5,000 watts. So that can run some pretty serious appliances.
Like?
Maybe even a small microwave or an induction hob, potentially. Definitely coffee makers, hair dryers, that kind of thing. It also has a really robust DC output, 12 volts at 180 amps continuous, peaking at 350 amps. Plenty for all your standard 12-volt stuff like lights, pumps, fridges. And of course, it has its own integrated BMS and safety relays protecting everything. Plus a display on the front for status, and you can get an optional remote control panel too.
Right, so it's the battery, the inverter, the chargers, all managed intelligently. How does it actually get charged up from different sources?
It handles multiple inputs automatically, so the standard version can take about 500 watts from your vehicle's alternator via its built-in DC charger. It can take up to 400 watts from solar panels, again with its own MPPT controller built right in, and about 750 watts if you plug into mains hookup.
You mentioned an upgrade, a supercharger.
Yeah, that's an option. The supercharger basically doubles the charge rate from the alternator, bumps it up to 1,000 watts. That's really useful if you move around a lot, drive decent distances between spots. You can replenish the battery much, much faster just from driving.
So it's got smarts built in too. How does that help?
Well, it uses charging profiles specifically designed for its internal lithium battery chemistry. So it charges optimally to maximize the battery's lifespan. The integrated monitoring shows you exactly what's going in and what's coming out in real time. And like we said, just combining all those systems into one box means way less wiring, less complexity, less installation headache.
In installation itself, is it designed to be easy?
Yeah, it seems so. It's pretty compact, so you can usually find a spot for it in cabinetry or maybe under a seat. It uses these things called Nutrit connectors, which are high-quality, secure plug-in connectors. Makes the wiring part quite straightforward. And interestingly, it's expandable. You can actually add extra battery modules later if you decide you need more capacity. So yeah, lots of options, lots of tech. Which kind of brings us back to the big question, doesn't it? With all this information, how do you actually choose what's right for you?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And based on our sources, the advice seems pretty clear, really.
Yeah.
Lead acid, well, it still has its place. Maybe for, lower demand setups, weekend trips, or if you're someone who almost always stays at campsites with mains hookup available. It's cheaper upfront, simpler in some ways.
True. It's a viable option for certain styles of travel.
But, and it's a big but, if your goal is real energy independence, if you want the freedom to roam, to stay off-grid for extended periods far from any hookup, then lithium really does seem to be presented as the clear, undeniable way forward. The benefits in usable capacity, weight, charging speed, lifespan,
Yeah.
they just stack up.
Yeah, the performance difference is substantial for that kind of use.
And for building that truly future-proof setup, it seems like combining those top-tier components we discussed, like a high-capacity Fogstar Drift lithium battery, a good pure sine wave inverter, efficient solar with MPPT, or going for that integrated solution like the Clayton LPS II 3000,
Yeah.
that's how you create a system that's reliable, charges quickly, and basically lets you live comfortably in your van wherever you happen to park it.
It gives you that confidence to just go.
Exactly. So we've really taken a deep dive today into the absolute core of the campervan experience, the power system. We've looked hard at the practical differences between lead acid and lithium. And understanding those differences, well, it can genuinely transform how you approach off-grid travel. For me, the big aha moment is always that usable capacity difference. Getting nearly double the power for the same rated size with lithium, that just opens up so many possibilities.
And that's exactly it, isn't it? This technical stuff, the watts and amp hours, it's not just about the numbers, it's about what it enables. It enables freedom, it lets you extend your adventures, it gives you that feeling of being truly self-sufficient out there on the road. It changes how you think about where you can go and for how long you can stay.
So maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. When you're dreaming about your van or planning your next trip, don't just think about what devices you want to power. Think about how long you want to power them for and how far away from a plug socket you want to be. What's your ultimate vision for off-grid adventure, and what kind of power system is going to get you there? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into campervan power systems.